stand for the prayer. We ask that our Assembly Chaplain, Father Constantine Papademos, offer the day's prayer.
Good morning. Let us pray. Lord, when you look at humanity, you don't see different races. You don't see different social standings, colors, or creeds. You just see us as part of your beautiful creation, all made in your own image and likeness. When we classify people, Lord, we aren't able to enjoy the presence of all those you may place in our lives. Help us to see others through your eyes, so that we can all live in unity as children of God. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to remain standing and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assemblymember Monning as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Monning.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Friday, September 2nd, 2011. The Assembly met at 10 a.m. Honorable Fiona Moss, Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly, presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dawson Wilson at the desk. Reading Clerk Timothy Moreland. Reading. The roll was called. Ashaji, Alejo, Allen, Amiano, Atkins, Berryhill, Block, Blumenfield, Bradford, Brownlee, Buchanan, Butler, Calderon, Campos, Carter, Cedillo, Chesbrough, Conway, Cook, Davis, Dickinson, Donnelly, Ing, Fiora, Fong, Fuentes, Furutani, Gaines, Gaggiani, Garrett, Gatto, Gordon, Grove, Hagman, Halderman, Hall, Harkey, Ayashi, Hernandez, Hill, Huber, Waso, Huffman, Jeffries, Jones, Knight, Lara, Logue, Lowenthal, Mom, Mansour, Mendoza, Miller, Mitchell, Monning, Morel, Nestande, Nielsen, Norby, Olson, Pan, Perea, Emmanuel, Perez, Portantino, Silva, Skinner, Smythe, Solorio, Swanson, Torres, Valadeo, Wagner, Wykowski, Williams, Yamada. Mr. Speaker, by unanimous consent, the regular business assembly was dispensed with.
Mr. Calderon moves and Mr. Hagman seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Okay, Tuesday, September 6th is the last day to receive a conference report at the Senate or Assembly desk. There are still Assembly bills on the Senate floor without a floor manager. The Senate has begun to enforce Senate Rule 29. This means that Assembly members on the Senate Assembly measures on the Senate floor, which are passed on file 3 times, will be sent to the inactive file. So please find a floor manager as soon as possible. Mr. Calderon.
Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 45.5 to allow Assemblymember Silva to have guests and photographers on the floor.
Without objection.
Also, I have a series of final notice waivers. I request unanimous consent to suspend Joint Rule 62A, final notice requirements, to allow the Appropriations Committee to meet and to hear SB 734 by Mr. Price and SB 292 by Mr. Padilla, pending referral today upon the call of the chair today in a room to be determined.
Okay, without objection.
Also pursuant to that rule, request unanimous consent to suspend that rule to allow Business and Professions and Consumer Protection Committee to meet and to hear AB 565 by Huber, SB 134 by Corbett, SB 922 by Negretti McLeod, and SB 617 by R. Calderon, pending re-referral today upon call of the chair in a room to be announced.
Without objection.
Also, request to move to suspend that rule to allow the Education Committee to meet and to hear AB 680 by Mr. Block today upon call of the chair in a room to be determined.
Without objection.
Likewise, suspend Rule 62A to allow the Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy Committee to meet and hear AB 696 by Mr. Wesso today upon call of the chair in a room to be announced.
Without objection.
Moving on, request unanimous consent to suspend Rule 62 to allow Judiciary Committee to meet and to hear AB 1388 by Mr. Wachowski, AB 1407 by the Judiciary Committee, and SB 163 by Ms. Evans, as well as SB 384 by Ms. Evans, pending re-referral today upon call of the chair in a room to be announced.
Without objection.
Also request unanimous consent to suspend that rule to allow the Natural Resources Committee to meet and to hear SB 292 by Padilla today upon call of the chair in a room to be announced.
Without objection.
And finally, request unanimous consent to suspend Rule 62A to allow Public Safety Committee to meet and to hear AB 220 by Solorio, SB 798 by De Leon, and AJR 17 by Solorio today upon call of the chair in a room to be announced.
Without objection.
Pursuant to Assembly Rule 78, and at the request of the authors, please send the following bills to inactive file. File item 103, SB 744, file item 155, SB 411, file item 105, SB 760, and file item 12, AB 197.
Without objection, clerk will note.
Thank you.
Okay, pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File item 31, AB 408 by Wykowski to the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials. I'm also rescinding the action whereby the following amended bills were referred to a committee pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, and I am ordering the bills returned to third reading. SB 276, Wright, to the Rules Committee on September 2nd. SB 922, Negretti-McLeod, to the Business Professions and Consumer Protection Committee on September 1st. SB 870, Padilla, to Rules on August 29th. Those are being returned to third reading. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File item 154, SB 292, Padilla, to the Natural Resources and Appropriations Committee. File item 91, SB 384, Evans, to the Judiciary Committee. Okay. SB 870, Padilla, to the Natural Resources Committee. SB 922, Negretti-McLeod, to the Business Professions and Consumer Protection and Appropriations. File item 163, SB 946, Senate Health Bill, to the Health Committee and Appropriations. File item 108, SB 617, Calderon, to Business Professions and Consumer Protection and Accountability and Administrative Review. File item 171, SB 9 Yee by Cedillo, to the Public Safety Committee. And file item 156, SB 618 Wolk by Mr. V. Manuel Perez, to the Natural Resources Committee. Okay, at the request of the author, please return the following bills to the Senate for further action. File item 30, AB 403 by Ms. Campos. Without objection. Okay, we will recess the regular session for the purpose of convening the first extraordinary session. Without objection, we will substitute the prayer pledge, other opening procedures in the regular session for those items in the first extraordinary session. Motions and resolutions. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to suspend Assembly Rule 77 and to allow the authors to take up AB 21 and AB 30 for purposes of concurrence and Senate amendments.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We do object to the rule waiver and respectfully ask for a roll call vote on that.
Okay, Mr. Hagman objects to suspending Assembly Rule 77. Mr. Calderon requests an aye vote. Mr. Hagman requests a no vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Calderon asks for an aye vote. Mr. Hagman asks for a no vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 20. The motion to suspend Assembly Rule 77 and to allow the author to take up AB 21 and AB 30 for the purpose of concurrence and Senate amendments today has been granted. The first extraordinary session is recessed under call of the Speaker. Okay, we are back in the regular session. Okay, we would like to welcome to the chambers today, on behalf of Mr. Chesbro, his lifelong friend, Michael Altabet, a firefighter with the City of Fremont Fire Department. He is in the rear of the chamber. Okay, business on the daily file. Second reading, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 402.
All bills will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Okay, we're going to start at the top of the concurrence file. File items 2 through 6, pass and retain. File item 7, AB 551, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 551 by Assemblymember Campos, an act relating to public contracts.
Ms. Campos.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. AB 551 is back on concurrence in the Senate amendments. This bill strengthens the State Prevailing Wage Act by increasing the penalties for abuse of the Act. Senate amendments address chaptering out issues. Members, I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 8, AB 700. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 700 by Assemblymember Blumenfield, an act relating to economic development.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, AB 700 is back on concurrence and Senate amendments. This bill removes the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, or the I-Bank, from the Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency and establishes it as an independent agency in order to streamline the bank's administrative functions and enable the I-Bank to become a more efficient, visible, and effective financing authority. The amendments in the Senate were taken to ensure that all the projects administered by the I-Bank are consistent with the bank's objectives, goals, and the state's infrastructure priorities. This bill is supported by a coalition of nonprofit, private, public, and economic interests and has received broad bipartisan support in both houses. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on concurrence.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 54, noes 8. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 9, AB 1184. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1184 by Assemblymember Gatto and others, an act relating to public employees' retirement.
Pass and retain. File item 10, AB 1319. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1319 by Assemblymember Butler and others, an act relating to product safety.
Ms. Butler.
Afternoon, Madam Speaker and members. I am rising to bring back for your concurrence AB 1319, which has been over in the Senate. It has been amended to take out baby formula with the bill that attaches BPA into baby products. So we're happy that over in the Senate it did get through, and it did take out formula. So it's back today for your concurrence. We also have a letter of support from the Department of Toxic Substance Control, who has said that this is exactly what we need. It's moving along in the green chemistry process. I actually have a letter that I would like to quote, Madam Speaker, permission to read.
Are you asking for permission to read?
Yes.
Without objection.
Thank you. Again, from the Department of Toxic Substances Control, this letter was dated August 24th. And again, it does answer the questions with regard to the Green Chemistry Council looking at toxic substances here in California. And it says, it could be argued that bisphenol A in children's bottles and cups should be more appropriately addressed through DTSC's regulatory process. It goes on to say the DTSC does not believe that the regulation should ever be viewed as excluding action that the legislature might take to address specific product-related concerns that are brought to its attention. It goes on to read, in light of the information available regarding the potential health effects of bisphenol A and the regulatory actions already taken by a number of other states and countries, DTSC believes it is prudent to restrict the use of bisphenol A in a narrow range of products such as children's infant bottles and sippy cups. The modest restriction will help reduce the exposure of infants at their most vulnerable period of development. In addition, since the bill was here in May, the American Medical Association has also put forward a motion to request that BPA be taken out of baby bottles and sippy cups. With that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote on behalf of 550,000 children born in California every year.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 11, AB 126. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 126 by Assemblymember Davis and others, an act relating to judicial appointments.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Today I am presenting AB 126, which would encourage those advising the governor on judicial appointments to recommend candidates with diverse backgrounds reflecting the demographics of California. Per an agreement with stakeholders, Senate amendments delete the provision requiring the governor to provide names of individuals who advise him on judicial appointments. The other amendments were technical and clarifying in nature. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 12 has been dispensed with. File item 13 passed temporarily. File item 14, AB 768. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 768 by Assemblymember Gatto and others, an act relating to male circumcision and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Gatto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, this bill simply clarifies that a city or a county cannot ban male circumcision. This bill was necessary because of 2 recent such attacks on the practice. This legislation represents both parties coming together to protect liberties. I thank everyone for their support, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 2 on the urgency. Ayes 58, noes 2 on the measure. Senate amendments are concurred in. We're going to go back to file item 13, AB 624. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 624 by Assemblymember John A. Perez, an act relating to insurance.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 581 is returned for concurrence. AB 581 aims to increase access to healthy and nutritious food choices for all Californians and lead the effort to eradicate food deserts in the state. The Senate amendments added provisions regarding the implementation of California Healthy Food Financing Initiative and the advisory group overseen by the Secretary of the Department of Food and Agriculture.
You're talking about 581 and it's 624.
God.
Never mind.
Strike that. I still ask for your aye vote. AB 624. Senate amendments reduce the length of time for the program from extension from 5 years to 3 years. And this is the California Organized Investment Network. It awards the tax credits competitively rather than through a first-come, first-served basis when tax credit applications exceed the annual cap. AB 624 extends until January 1st, 2017, the sunset date for the California Organized Investment Network Community Development Financing Institution Tax Credit Program, administered by the California Department of Insurance. The program results in substantial leveraging of vital private investment capital to community development organizations. This bill has received strong bipartisan support, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote. And on the next one, too.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 62, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. Mr. Speaker, do you want to do file item 37? File item 37, AB 581. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 581 by Assemblymember John A. Perez and others, an act relating to public health.
Mr. Speaker.
The amendments from the Senate are those that I erroneously listed on the previous bill. AB 581 receives support from the agricultural community, health organizations, local government. There is no known opposition. This bill will generate positive public health and statewide economic development outcomes. AB 581 passed the Assembly and the Senate with strong bipartisan support, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 64, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 15, AB 25. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 25 by Assemblymember Hayashi and others, an act relating to athletics.
Ms. Hayashi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 25 will protect young student athletes by requiring a student athlete who suffers a concussion during practice or a game to be immediately removed from play for the remainder of the day. The Senate amendments make these requirements applicable only to school-sponsored athletic activities. The bill is sponsored by the NFL. I respectfully request your aye vote in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 16, AB 42. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 42 by Assemblymember Huffman and others, an act relating to state parks.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is a bill that authorizes the Department of Parks and Recreation to enter into operating agreements with qualified nonprofits as one tool that we hope will help minimize the number of state parks that are threatened with closure in the coming year. The Senate amendments clarify the reporting requirements that will exist when these agreements are entered into, add some legislative intent, and also add, thank you, Madam Speaker, an important provision to clarify that general fund monies cannot be used to subsidize nonprofit organizations when they are contracted with to operate an entire park unit. Members, this is a bill that passed out of this House with a 75-1 vote in May. The Senate amendments are consistent with what we saw before. It's not the silver bullet. It won't spare us completely from this threat of park closures, but it's a very important tool to put in the hands of parks officials in the coming year, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Mr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a co-author to this bill, I rise in support. The author has done tremendous work to help advance protecting and preserving our parks. This bill incorporates several opportunities to do that with nonprofits and local government. I encourage my colleagues to support this bill.
Ms. Olson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I would just like to take a moment to thank the author as well as Assemblyman Jeffries for their creativity. I have 3 very key state parks in my district that are on the closure list, and they are very grateful for your creativity and your approach in working together to help find solutions. Thank you. Urge your support.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote.
I'll take the bill.
Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in.
Yeah, right.
File item 17, AB 47. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 47 by Assemblymember Huffman and others, an act relating to school enrollment.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. AB 47 is jointly authored by myself and Assemblywoman Julia Brownley, and it makes several needed improvements to the Open Enrollment Act. The core of the bill are provisions that help prevent high-performing and improving schools from being misidentified as low-achieving schools and thereby subject to the open enrollment trigger. The bill does that by providing a safe harbor for schools that have achieved an API score of 700 or above, or schools that have shown 50 points or more in annual growth in their API score. The bill also requires that schools be triggered as low achieving for 2 consecutive years, and significantly, it holds this same open enrollment trigger standard to charter schools. We know that a significant number of the lowest achieving schools in California happen to be charter schools. They should be subject to the same open enrollment triggers as other public schools, and this bill will make that happen. Finally, this bill exempts County Office of Education schools for special education from being included on the list. Members, this is a bill that refocuses the Open Enrollment Act on what it was intended to do, which is to trigger the lowest achieving schools in California for these open enrollment procedures. It passed out of the Senate with amendments that strike the sunset clause and reporting requirements for school districts and the Department of Education. Otherwise, the same bill that we approved before, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 46, no 17. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 18, AB 69. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 69 by Assemblymember Bell and others, an act relating to public social services.
Mr. Bell.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker and members. This bill, AB 69, sets up a process with our Social Security Administration to provide critical CalFresh benefits for struggling seniors. This was amended in the Senate Appropriations Committee to clarify there are no significant automation costs or changes to the counties or state, and delay the implementation of the bill's provisions by 6 months to July 1st, 2012. I ask your concurrence in the Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 15. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 19, AB 124. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 124 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to academic content standards.
Mr. Fuentes.
Members, AB 124 requires the Superintendent of Public Instruction to convene a group of experts to update, revise, and align the ELD standards, the English Language Development Standards, to the newly adopted Common Core English Language Arts Academic Content Standards. This work is essential to ensuring our English learner pupils develop the necessary skills to become proficient in English and academic subjects. The amendments taken in the Senate reduce costs by eliminating the requirement to establish a commission and instead require the superintendent to convene a group of experts. Amendments also require the Department of Education to use federal Title I carryover funds allocated in the 2010 budget to complete the requirements of this bill. AB 124 received bipartisan support in the Senate, and I respectfully ask for your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 53, noes 9. Senate amendments are concurred in. Okay, I've got a couple of motions and resolutions. I am rescinding the action whereby the following amended bills were referred to the committee pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2 and ordering the following bill returned to third reading. SB 543 Steinberg to the Business and Professions on September 2nd. And I'm also going to rescind the request to send the following bill to the Senate. This bill will be kept here in the Assembly. File item 30, AB 403 by Ms. Campos. Okay, members, if you could just give your attention to the rear of the chamber. Mr. Silva would like to introduce his guest and present a member's resolution. Mr. Silva.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is really an honor and a privilege. On Sunday, August 28th, the players and coaches of the Ocean View Little League from Huntington Beach made Orange County, the state of California, and the entire United States of America extremely proud. Representing the United States, these young men here today defeated the team from Japan to win the 2011 Little League World Series. They are coached by head coach Jeff Prado, coach Tony Cienca, and coach Jose Martinez. All of this was in Japan after waiting out Hurricane Irene before the game could start. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating the players, coaches, and team moms from the Ocean View Little League of Huntington Beach, California.
Mr. Speaker.
Request unanimous consent to allow the players to move to the front of the chamber for their photo.
Without objection. Okay, file item 20, AB 138. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 138 by Assemblymember Bell and others, an act relating to aging.
Mr. Bell.
Madam Speaker and members, this bill, AB 138, provides good information to improve the lives of seniors with smarter planning. AB 138 was amended by the Senate Appropriations Committee to reduce cost pressure by clarifying the Elder Index as a reference tool to be used when making decisions about allocating existing resources, and deleting a provision that required area aging agencies on aging to identify the number of elders falling below the index, and deleting the requirement that the area agencies on aging use the Elder Index to track participant progress in the Senior Community Employment Program. These amendments will reduce the cost pressure of the bill, and I therefore ask for your concurrence in these Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 15. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 21, AB 156. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 156 by Assemblymember Lara, an act relating to gaming.
Mr. Lara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 165 is back for concurrence in Senate amendments. AB 156 provides protection for gambling enterprises operating games which were once approved by the Bureau of Gambling Control and later found to be operating unlawfully by the Bureau. Senate amendments provide that a gambling enterprise has the burden of providing the department approved the controlled game and that the game was played in a manner that it was approved. The amendments also add provisions that will protect consumers by allowing them to redeem outstanding chips when a gambling enterprise is sold, leased, or goes into bankruptcy. This bill has received bipartisan support and no votes. I respectfully asked for concurrence in Senate amendments. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, noes 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 22, AB 187. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 187 by Assemblymember Lara and others, an act relating to state government.
Mr. Lara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 187, which is joint authored by our colleague Assemblymember Smythe. AB 187 expands the state auditor's current high-risk audit program. Specifically, this bill will allow, not mandate, the state auditor to review local governments during the course of her high-risk program. Currently, she is only authorized to audit state agencies under this specific program. The current omission of local governments from this program could hamper the ability of the state auditor to provide accurate and complete statewide oversight. The amendment taken in the Senate requires the JLAC committee to approve audits commenced under this program. This bill has received bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 61, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 23, AB 194. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 194 by Assemblymember Bell and others, an act relating to post-secondary education.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 194 will provide priority enrollment for classes to foster youth and former foster youth at California's public colleges and universities. This bill passed the Senate with a 33-1 vote. We had an amendment in the Senate Appropriations Committee simply to add a sunset date, July 1st, 2017. I ask for concurrence in these Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 5. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 24, AB 200. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 200 by Assemblymember Hayashi, an act relating to physical education.
Ms. Hayashi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 200 will help students achieve fitness goals and encourage schools to provide outstanding physical fitness education by establishing the Health and Fitness Awards program. The amendments taken in the Senate were technical. I respectfully request an aye vote in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 51, noes, ayes 52, no 9. Senate amendments are concurred in, and we'd like to welcome to the floor former Assembly Member Mr. Rudy Bermudez. Mr. Bermudez. File item 25, AB 212. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 212 by Assemblymember Bell, an act relating to public social services and declaring an urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Bell.
Madam Speaker and members, AB 212 is an omnibus cleanup bill to AB 12 of last year, California's Fostering Connections to Success and Increasing Adoptions Act. As most of you recall, last year we passed AB 12 on an overwhelmingly bipartisan basis in order to bring federal dollars into the state and make it possible for us to offer up to 3 additional years of foster care supports to young adults who agree to continue their education or find employment. Key provisions of AB 12 will go into effect this coming January and will phase in gradually. This bill, AB 212, includes various changes needed to bring state law in line with the recently released federal requirements, along with various technical and clarifying amendments to AB 12. Amendments taken in the Senate include various changes needed to ensure compliance with the federal laws, addition of an urgency clause to provide the state with time to revise instructions to the counties and courts before the implementation January 1st, and add technical and clarifying amendments. The bill had no opposition, passed out the Senate 37-1. I urge I vote on and vote for the Senate concurrence with the Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Oh, sorry. Urgency. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 55, noes 6 on the urgency. Ayes 55, noes 6 on the measure. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 26, AB 243. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 243 by Assemblymember Alejo and others, an act relating to employment.
Mr. Alejo.
Madam Speaker and members, AB 243 requires a farm worker's wage statement to list the grower or other farm labor contractor for whom he or she worked during the pay period. The bill was amended in the Senate simply to address chaptering out concerns. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 41, noes 21. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 27, AB 250. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 250 by Assemblymember Brownlee and others, an act relating to instructional materials.
Ms. Brownlee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 250 takes some first steps in integrating the recently adopted Common Core content standards into our education system. Amendments taken in the Senate delete provisions relative to the instructional materials adoption process, reduce the list of topics to be covered by the model professional development modules, require the superintendent of public instruction to work with collaboration with the State Board of Education and various stakeholders, and specifies that Title I federal carryover funds and other available state and federal funds shall be used to implement this bill. And it also finally renames the Curriculum Development and Supplemental Materials Commission as the Instructional Quality Commission. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 20. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 28, AB 258. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 258 by Assemblymember Hagman and others, an act relating to rabies.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. The dog days of summer is over for Molly. I'm happy to present AB 258, which is back for concurrence. That's some clarifying language. Has no votes. I want to thank my co-author, Ms. Atkins, as well for doing this. And let our sleeping dogs lie. We don't have to take the rabies shots no more when they're sick. And ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 29 passed temporarily. File item 30 passed and retained. File item 31 has been dispensed with. File item 32, AB 410. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 410 by Assemblymember Swanson and others, an act relating to regulations.
Mr. Swanson.
Madam Speaker and members, equal access to public information for the visually impaired is AB 410. This bill has received no votes to date. It's an excellent bill. Today I present this bill, and this bill is equal access to public information for the blind. It requires certain agencies to translate regulations that are requested into a narrative format that can be used by the reading software for the blind, therefore making it possible for them to understand all regulations, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 66, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in.
File item 33, AB 431, clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 431 by Assemblymember Ma, an act relating to accountancy and making appropriation therefore.
Ms. Ma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 431 will create a retired designation for certified public accountants through the California Board of Accountancy. The Senate amendments are technical and clarifying in nature. AB 431 has received unanimous bipartisan support. Respectfully ask for your aye vote on these Senate amendments.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 65, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 34, AB 469. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 469 by Assemblymember Swanson and others, an act relating to employment.
Mr. Swanson.
Mr. Speaker, AB 469 is a comprehensive bill to address the underground economy and the practice of theft of wages. The bill contains a number of important provisions that strengthen existing law and improve enforcement agencies against those bad actors who operate in the underground economy. The Senate amendments address several of the opposition's concerns with the bill. I'm happy to report that the California Chamber of Commerce and the California Realtor Association and the California Grocery Association have all removed their opposition to the bill. Wage theft, particularly in this time, is unacceptable practice, and it hurts good business practices. And I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 46, noes 22. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 35, AB 536. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 536 by Assemblymember Ma, an act relating to physicians and surgeons.
Ms. Ma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 536 is a bill which will ensure that consumers have the most accurate and complete information on their physicians when they are seeking information from the California Medical Board of California's website. The Senate amendments address the concerns of the Medical Board of California and remove their opposition by requiring that the Medical Board provide notification of any expunged misdemeanors or felony convictions on its website within 6 months of receiving a certified copy of the court expungement order from the licensee. This bill has received unanimous support in the Senate. Respectfully ask for your aye vote on these Senate amendments.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 64, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 36, pass and retain. File item 37 has been dispensed with. File item 38, AB 620. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 620 by Assemblymember Block, an act relating to public post-secondary education.
Mr. Block.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 620 will protect LGBT students from bullying and harassment on higher education campuses. It's back for concurrence on Senate amendments. The amendments were largely technical in nature. The only substantive amendment removed reference to the California Post-Secondary Education Commission because of its elimination by the governor, and instead reassigned the tasks therein to other entities. The bill achieves safer campuses at CSU, UC, and community colleges through a number of objectives. There is no opposition on file. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 47, noes 21. Senate amendments are concurred in. Colleagues, we're going to go back to file item 36, which I skipped over inadvertently. That is AB 563. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 563 by Assemblymember Furutani, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 563 is back for concurrence. AB 563 is a simple measure that will allow for county assessors' offices to share specific data with the city finance offices as part of an investigation as to whether the documentary transfer tax, the DTT, has been imposed and collected. The DTT is not a new tax or a tax increase. AB 563 includes safeguards to ensure that the information acquired will not become public and will not be open to public inspection. Only designated employees will have access, and no Social Security numbers will be used. I urge and I vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 45, noes 18. Senate amendments are concurred in. We're back to file item 39, which is AB 646. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 646 by Assemblymember Atkins, an act relating to local public employee organizations.
Ms. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 646 provides employees' organizations with the option to request fact-finding when collective bargaining negotiations reach impasse. The current process incentivizes surface bargaining where local governments rush through the meet and confer process in order to unilaterally meet the goals of the agency's management. The amendments made in the Senate provided an exemption for charter cities and counties with binding arbitration. This is because in binding arbitration, the balance of power between the public agency and the employee organization is more equal. The employer cannot simply rush through the meet and confer process and impose its last, best, and final offer. Fact-finding is an effective tool in labor relations because it can facilitate agreement through objective determinations. It helps the parties engage in productive discussions and reaches reasonable decisions, and is used in public school and higher education collective bargaining agreements. I would respectfully request your support on concurrence.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 23. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 40, AB 650. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 650 by Assemblymember Blumenfield, an act relating to transportation, make an appropriation therefore.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, AB 650 is back on concurrence and Senate amendments. This bill will establish a blue ribbon task force on public transportation with no general funds being used. It provides critical information about our state's commuter transit needs, the costs, and how to pay for meeting those needs. With this bill, California will finally have a blueprint for building and maintaining an effective public transportation system in the 21st century. The Senate amendments are technical and expedited the completion of recommendations to the legislature so we can put this information to good use in a faster time frame. This bill received wide stakeholder support from transit representatives, environmental groups, and many more. There is no formal opposition, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 49, noes 20. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 41, AB 651. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 651 by Assemblymember Wayso and others, an act relating to elections.
Mr. Wayso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate amendments to AB 651 permit the Secretary of State to seek penalties from a professional petition gathering firm that fails to comply with the provisions of this bill. AB 651 will bring more transparency and accountability to the initiative process and will help decrease fraud and illegal practices in signature gathering by ensuring that circulators are aware of the law and that petition firms are registered with the Secretary of State. This bill is supported by the Secretary of State and the Ballot Initiative Strategy Center. I respectfully request your concurrence in Senate amendments. Thank you.
Seeing no questions or further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 21. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 42, AB 668. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 668 by Assemblymember Block, an act relating to the California State University.
Mr. Block.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 668 compels CSU faculty to allow students to make up examinations missed due to religious observance, unless such a makeup creates an undue hardship on the institution. Amendments taken in the Senate conform the definition of undue hardship to the existing definition in Government Code Section 12926. The bill provides clarity to students, faculty, and administrators and promotes religious freedom. AB 668 has not received any no votes in the process. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 66, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 43, AB 673. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 673 by Assemblymember John A. Perez and others, an act relating to public health.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. Members, I'm pleased to present AB 673, which is back for concurrence. AB 673 would integrate health issues affecting the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities as part of the mission of the State Office of Multicultural Health. The Senate amendments were clarifying in nature to specify that health data and information, including information based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Currently, the office does not address the health needs and concerns of the LGBT communities. AB 673 corrects that oversight. Expanding the office's mission to include LGBT Californians will help the state develop and implement a more comprehensive public health policy that benefits all of California's diverse populations. I respectfully ask for your concurrence in the Senate amendments.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 22. Senate amendments are concurred in. File items 44, AB 743. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 743 by Assemblymember Block, an act relating to community colleges.
Mr. Block.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 743 requires the Board of Governors of the California Community Colleges to establish a common assessment system for the purpose of placement and advisement. Amendments taken in the Senate specify that the common assessment test to be used will be an off-the-shelf test, substantially reducing potential cost. The bill has had broad bipartisan support. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 63, noes 3. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 45, AB 862. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 862 by Assemblymember Silva and others, an act relating to developmental services.
Mr. Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 862 seeks to bring accountability and transparency to the state's many regional centers. Amendments in the Senate were clarifying and cost reducing. AB 862 is supported by the stakeholders, that is, the service providers, consumers, and the families. It has received bipartisan support and has passed both policy and fiscal in both houses without any votes in opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 71, noes 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 46, AB 973. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 973 by Assemblymember Campos, an act relating to the courts.
Ms. Campos.
Thank you. AB 973 requires trial courts to provide the public an opportunity to submit written comments on its decision to change its services prior to adopting plans. It would also require a trial court to hold a public hearing before adopting a budget plan. Senate amendments add a sunset date. Members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. Ayes 51, noes 17. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 47, AB 982. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 982 by Assemblymember Skinner, an act relating to energy.
Ms. Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 982 is back from concurrence from the Senate. It helps our state consolidate land parcels for renewable energy projects that meet the state's RPS and AB 32 goals while also providing revenue. Amendments taken in the Senate are largely technical and ensure any such development is consistent with our Desert Renewable Energy Conservation Plan. The bill has no opposition and concurrent support on both sides. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on the Senate amendments.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 70, noes 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 48, AB 1041. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1041 by Assemblymember Ma, an act relating to vehicles.
Ms. Ma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1041 is a district bill that simply extends a sunset date on the San Francisco pilot program that allows the San Francisco Municipal Railway to use forward-facing cameras to enforce parking violations. The Senate amendments extend the sunset date of the program until January 1st, 2016. Instead of removing the sunset, requires another legislative study and makes other technical changes. Respectfully ask for your aye vote on these Senate amendments.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 64, noes 2. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 49, AB 1097. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1097 by Assemblymember Skinner and others, an act relating to transit.
Ms. Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, 1097 is back from the Senate. The bill gives local transit agencies authority to prefer American-made buses and trains when spending federal money. It supports our American jobs and recovery of manufacturing at no cost to state or local governments. Concurrence in the amendments is supported by both sides, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 72, noes 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 50, AB 1102. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1102 by Assemblymember Lara, an act relating to the state auditor.
Mr. Lara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, AB 1102 is a general cleanup and clarifying bill for the statutes governing the state auditor. Amendments in the Senate clarify provisions related to whistleblower protection program. They also clarify the Bureau of State Audit's access to confidential and privileged documents during the course of their audit work. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on concurrence.
Seeing no questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 46, noes 24. Senate amendments are concurred in.
File item 51, AB 1114. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1114 by Assemblymember Bonnie Lowenthal, an act relating to inmates.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill maintains the due process protections for inmates under the existing protocol for involuntary treatment. However, it shortens the timeline from 47 days to no more than 30 days prior to an administrative law judge hearing. Amendments taken in the Senate entitle an inmate to a motion for reconsideration after a ruling allowing involuntary treatment and clarify that the provisions of the bill apply solely to inmates in state prisons. AB 1114 strikes a balance between protecting the inmate's right to due process and the need for mental health care for those in crisis. The bill has received broad bipartisan support, and I respectfully request your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 52, AB 1151. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1151 by Assemblymember Fuhr and others, an act relating to investments.
Mr. Fuhr.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. 1151 will increase compliance by the state's pension funds with our directive that they divest from interests in Iran. Senate amendments simply make the language of the bill consistent with the state constitution, and in so doing, remove the opposition of CalSTRS. On this floor, the vote was 79-0. On the Senate floor, 38-0. I urge your concurrence in Senate amendments today.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 69, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 53, AB 1168. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1168 by Assemblymember Pan, an act relating to workers' compensation.
Dr. Pan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1168 is a bill to reduce worker compensation costs by establishing a fee schedule for vocational experts like there already exists for medical professionals. Senate amendments ensure that the fee schedule for these vocational experts conform to existing law. I respectfully ask that you concur with Senate amendments. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 54, AB 1292. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1292 by Assemblymember Roger Hernandez and others, an act relating to drinking water and making appropriation therefore.
Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I present to you AB 1292 for concurrence. This bill that would vastly improve the state's drinking water and drinking water infrastructure by authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds for deposit into the Safe Drinking Water State Revolving Fund to satisfy federal matching requirements under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Specifically, AB 1292 would allow the Department of Public Health to contract with the California iBank to issue revenue bonds for the use as a 20% state match for general funds, grant funds. Amendments taken in the Senate were technical in nature. This bill was unanimously passed out of both houses and has no opposition. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 70, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 55, AB 1314. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1314 by Assemblymember Wykowski and others, an act relating to air resources.
Mr. Wykowski.
Madam Speaker, members, AB 1314 streamlines the Alternative and Renewable Fuel and Vehicle Technology Program at the California Energy Commission. It allows the CEC to focus on grant solicitation and funding rather than administrative procedures. It has a host of bipartisan support. The bill makes minor changes, and I respectfully urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 69, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 56, AB 1358. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1358 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Fuentes.
Members, AB 1358 will bring in some much-needed revenue to the courts and counties choosing to participate in this discretionary program. Based on a similar successful amnesty program implemented in the early 90s, this bill allows counties and courts to include certain vehicle code misdemeanor fines in their existing amnesty program. The Senate amendments were technical and clarifying. It's important to note that this bill does not allow amnesty for certain misdemeanors such as DUI or reckless driving where an injury has occurred. This bill received bipartisan support in the Senate, and I respectfully ask for concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 66, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 57, AB 1382. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1382 by Assemblymember Roger Hernandez, an act relating to communicable diseases.
Mr. Hernandez.
Madam Chair, I present to you AB 1382 for concurrence. This bill authorizes already trained Office of AIDS counselors to administer new FDA-approved forms of HIV hepatitis C tests. AB 1382 has been amended in the Senate to make conforming changes and to add HCV exposure to the language. This addition would inform patients of preliminary results if there is a possible HIV or hepatitis C infection or exposure. AB 1382 is sponsored by the California Department of Public Health. There is no opposition. It has great bipartisan support, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 68, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 58, AB 1394. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1394 by Assembly Committee on Health and Act relating to health facility financing. Make appropriation, therefore.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 1394 is a committee bill that makes technical and clarifying changes to the statutes affecting the California Health Facilities Financing Authority. It is back for concurrence. CHIFA is administered by the State Treasurer's Office to provide loans to public and nonprofit health care providers in California through the issuance of tax-exempt bonds. Senate amendments make additional technical and non-controversial changes to update CHIFA's statutes and improve its administrative efficiency. This bill enjoys unanimous bipartisan support and is supported by the California Hospital Association. I respectfully ask for your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 59, AB 1416. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1416 by the Assembly Committee on Insurance and Act relating to insurance.
Mr. Solorio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is a code maintenance bill introduced by our Insurance Committee for the Department of Insurance. The Senate amendments were technical and clarifying amendments to the insurance code. This bill has no opposition and has received no votes in either House. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Aye 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File items 60 through 68 are not eligible. File items 69 through 78 pass and retain. We have 5 more items before we take a recess. During the recess, there will be 6 committees that will be meeting, and then we will reconvene at 4 p.m. File item 79, ACR 82. Clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 82 by Assemblymember Mitchell relative to domestic violence.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I'm pleased to present ACR 82, which declares the month of October of 2011 Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic violence affects millions of Americans each year without regard to gender, ethnicity, age, race, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. Although domestic violence abuse is hidden behind closed doors, it's one of the most prevalent crimes in this country. Just as devastating, children who witness violence in the home can suffer from the same social, psychological, and emotional trauma as an abused individual. DV comes in many forms, both physical and psychological, but regardless of the type of abuse or severity, or who the perpetrator or victim is and their gender, domestic violence is always a choice an abuser makes. Our state is taking steps to hold offenders accountable and offers more support for victims, and this legislature has enacted numerous laws that increase batterer accountability and increases victim safety. Members, please join me in supporting this resolution and raising awareness. I'd like to open the first roll call for co-authors, please, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Swanson.
Madam Speaker, first of all, let me compliment Ms. Mitchell for bringing forth the resolution and simply say that this is an issue long overdue for this kind of attention, and I ask for an aye vote.
Okay, Ms. Mitchell asked for the first roll to be open for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65. Well, for the record, there are 65 co-authors. We can take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. File item 80, ACR 83. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur on Resolution 83 by Assemblymember Gatto and others relative to the Republic of Armenia.
Mr. Gatto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, ACR 83 memorializes the upcoming visit of Armenian President Serge Sarkisian. California will be the site of his state visit very shortly. He will be visiting California later in September to promote trade and to strengthen cultural ties with California, opening a trade office in San Jose and a new consular office in Los Angeles. He will also be participating in celebrations of Armenia's independence with members of California's sizable Armenian American population. This resolution commemorates the visit and welcomes him to the state. I respectfully ask for aye vote.
Mr. Rasajan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to support ACR 83, which I joined authored. This resolution welcomes the upcoming visit of the President of the Republic of Armenia, His Excellency Serge Sarkisian, to the state of California. As much as I stand here, or I would like to stand here and speak as an American, but because of my looks and accent, most people want to know the rest of the history. So I stand here as Armenian, Christian, Lebanese, Californian American. It is with much pride that I stand here today. Thank you. To recognize the efforts of California to promote trade with the country of Armenia through the opening of new consular and trade offices in the cities of San Jose and Los Angeles. California is home to the largest population of Armenians outside of Armenia. I hope that you will join me in welcoming the President of the Republic of Armenia's visit to the state of California, and I respectfully ask for your support of this resolution, and my heartfelt thanks for the author.
Okay, members, we could take a voice vote on this. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. File item 81, ACR 70. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur on Resolution 70 by Assemblymember Smythe relative to CHP officers Gail W. Wood Jr. and James E. McCabe Memorial Highway.
Pass temporarily. File item 82, ACR 75. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur on Resolution 75 by Assemblymember Nielsen and others relative to the CHP officer Charles T. Smith Memorial Highway.
Mr. Nielsen.
Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, I would urge your aye vote on this honoring of a long-deceased officer. He was killed in 1956 on a routine traffic stop. Two individuals, one of whom he was frisking, the driver of the car, shot the officer in the back 2 times, ended up fatally killing him. He returned fire, though, protecting himself and us, and killed those 2 criminals. I would ask that we honor him by naming this portion of Interstate 5 in Glenn County for this fine officer, Charles Smith.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 65, no 0. Measure passes. File item 83, ACR 76. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur Resolution 76 by Assemblymember Chesbro relative to CHP Officer Thomas R. Adams Memorial Highway and CHP Officer Paul C. Jars Memorial Highway.
Mr. Chesbro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. ACR 76 will designate 2 separate portions of State Highway 101 in Mendocino County as the CHP Officer Thomas R. Adams Memorial Highway and the CHP Officer Paul C. Jarsky Memorial Highway. Officer Adams was killed in the line of duty on February 15, 2011, when his patrol car crossed over the center yellow lines of Highway 101 and was struck by an oncoming pickup truck. Officer Jarsky was killed in the line of duty on February 24, 1981, when his patrol car veered off the road due to severe weather conditions and plummeted 100 feet before coming to rest underwater. The California Department of Transportation has nearly completed construction of the new interchange and is ready to open it to traffic soon. Dedication ceremonies are being planned for February 2012. These officers both lost their lives in the line of duty. I ask you to join me in memorializing their service and they and their family sacrifice by naming these 2 sections of highway after them. There is no state cost. State law requires that memorial highway signs be paid for with non-state funds. There is no opposition. I urge your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 70, no 0. Measure passes. We're going to go back to file item 81, ACR 70. Clerk will read.
Assembly concurrent resolution 70 by Assembly Member Smythe relative to CHP officers Gail W. Wood Jr. and James E. McCabe Memorial Highway.
Mr. Smythe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. In line with the previous two items we've taken up, ACR 70 pays special tribute to two California Highway Patrol officers, Gail Wood Jr. and James McCabe, by dedicating a segment of State Route 5, or I-5, in their honor. While finishing an air patrol near Castaic Lake on September 1st, 1978, Officers Wood and McCabe were killed when the helicopter they were flying was destroyed after striking a power line support which was not visible in the darkness. All costs associated with this naming will be paid for by non-state resources. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Measure passes. And we're going to go back to file item 29, AB 320. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 320 by Assembly Member Hill, an act relating to the environment.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 320 clarifies that the real parties of interest to be named in a California Environmental Quality Act lawsuit are those undertaking the publicly funded project or receiving the permit as identified in the lead agency's proceedings. Senate amendments were taken with the help of the Office of Planning and Research to remove any ambiguity of who a lead agency needs to identify as those real parties in interest. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on concurrence.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 44, noes 23. Senate amendments are concurred in. Okay, and one last bill before recess. We're going to take it out of order. Senate bill. SB 299, file item 139. File item 139, SB 299. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 299 by Senator Evans and others, an act relating to employment.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 299 ensures that women do not lose their health insurance coverage while on maternity leave by requiring employers to maintain coverage. This bill could create major state savings as women would no longer need to turn to the state for maternity services due to the severance of employer-based coverage. Forced to pay out-of-pocket costs for health coverage, many women will delay or cut short their leave despite well-documented benefits to maternal and child health. Almost 4/5 of workers report being unable to take leave because they couldn't afford it. SB 299 would remedy this dire situation for working women in California. This bill has no opposition. I respectfully urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 47, noes 21. Measure passes. Okay, I have a clarification on the file notice waiver for Business and Professions Committee. They will hear AB 656 Huber, not AB 565 as previously announced. And pursuant to Assembly Rule 78 and at the request of the author, please send file item 120 SB 336 Liu to the inactive file. Okay, so we are going to take recess. The following committees will be meeting upon adjournment. Business and Professions. Business, Professions, and Consumer Protection will meet in room 437. Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy will meet in room 127. Judiciary Committee will meet in room 444. Labor Committee will meet in room 447. And Education Committee will meet in 4202, followed by the Natural Resources Committee, also in the same room, 4202. So that's Education in 4202. Following that committee, then the Natural Resources will follow that committee in the same room, 4202. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, I just wanted to point that out. The Natural Resources will meet at 1:34 this afternoon. I'm sorry, Education will meet before Natural Resources, and then Natural Resources after Education at 1:34.
Any other committees meeting? Public Safety is meeting in 126 upon adjournment. Public Safety, room 126. We are on recess. Committees are going to be meeting right now. Upon adjournment, we will convene at 4 o'clock p.m. We will reconvene at 4 p.m. Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're going to call a quick 5-minute Republican caucus in the Rules Room, if we could.
Okay. The Republican caucus will meet in the Rules Committee room right now. Republican caucus in the Rules Committee room.